Good afternoon and welcome to our January 18th Rotary Club of Columbus meeting. We call the meeting to order. I'd like to have us remember the family of Jim Hawthorne. Many of you all may know that he lost his father, Herb, this past week, and Herb was a Rotarian and past president and GRSP trustee. So we can take just a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you so very much. Now, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice at all. At this point, I'd call on Ian to give us an invocation according to his faith tradition. Ian.
Thank you, President Cedric. In recognition and gratitude for the safe return of the Rotary and CSU student mission team to Guatemala, and in thankfulness for the work that was accomplished last week in Vuelta Grande, our invocation today is based upon the Collect for Social Service from the Book of Common Prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, whose blessed Son came not to be served, but to serve, bless all who, following in his steps, give themselves to the service of others, that with wisdom, patience, and courage, they may minister in your name to the suffering, the friendless, and the needy, for the love of him who laid down his life for us. And now for this food and the hands that have prepared it, and the fellowship of Rotary, we give you thanks. Amen. Please remember the cans.
Thank you so much, Ian. At this point, we'd like to call on Ron, which will bring us our news. Ron, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's a look at your headlines for today. Recession likely. According to the Journal, based on a survey of business and academic economists, higher interest rates will push the U.S. economy into a recession later this year. The Wall Street Journal reports in a poll that on average, economists put the probability of a recession in the next 12 months at 61%, which is slightly down from the 63% in October's Wall Street Journal survey. But both figures are historically high outside actual recessions. Reportedly, Microsoft could announce thousands of job cuts today, according to multiple news reports, potentially becoming the latest tech company to cull its workforce as the global economy slows. Sky News reported the layoffs would affect roughly 5% of the company's workforce. Microsoft employs 221,000 people around the world, including 122,000 here in the United States. According to Bloomberg, the software company plans to cut jobs in a number of their engineering divisions. In local news, Troup County is now eligible for both FEMA individual assistance and FEMA public assistance due to the storms. Governor Brian Kemp submitted the disaster declaration request to President Biden through the FEMA regional office, who then determined to send the request through to the president for a final decision. Although this is not a replacement for insurance, it can assist with basic needs to start an individual's or business's recovery from the storms. Examples include assistance to make basic home repairs, find a temporary place to stay, or repair or replace certain household items, said the city officials in LaGrange. Your weather forecast for today is overcast with a high of 73 and a low of 58. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. I'd like to call on Michael to share with us our visitors and guests today. Michael, if you will come.
President Cedric and fellow Rotarians, we have visiting us from the Phoenix City Club, Dave Arwood. Welcome, Dave. And fellow Rotarians with guests, Eric Spears has brought with him several guests who apparently were participating in the trip to Guatemala, or the mission to Guatemala. We have Cameron Cavett, Emma Roberts.
Wave at us. Great, thank you.
Parker Lindsay, and Camilla Standerup. Thank you and welcome. And President Cedric has brought with him also several guests. He's brought with him John Mock and Elena Mock and Keith Dunnigan, who are all movie producers. Welcome. And Jim Cross has brought with him his son-in-law, Lionel Wynn. Welcome, Lionel. Ernie Smallman has brought with him Joanne Kogel, who's the District 7 City Council person. Welcome. And Adrian, last but not least, Adrian Chester has brought with him Eddie Florence, who's with Valley of Life Ministries. Please help me in giving all our visitors and guests a warm Rotary welcome.
To all our visitors and visiting Rotarians and guests, we'd just like to again welcome you and thank you for being with us and invite you to join us again at your convenience. At this point, I'd like to call on Dick if you would come and share with us our Soldier of the Week.
President Cedric and fellow Rotarians, it is really an honor today to present to you Master Sergeant Dylan Maynard, who is currently the Expert Infantry Badge NCOIC for test standards in the Office of the Chief of Infantry at Fort Benning. He is originally from Vermont, Burlington and all over Vermont. He's been in the Army for 18 years, 17 of which were in the 75th Ranger Regiment between Savannah and Fort Benning. For the last year, he's been in his current job. And he has, in his job, he spends, he tells me, 32 weeks a year on the road, all around the world, where Army units are conducting the Expert Infantry Badge, and his job is to ensure that they do it to standards. And so it's a very responsible job. His wife doesn't like him being gone all that time because he has 3 kids at home, and she is the manager of that group of kids. 15, 9, and 8? 15, 9, and 8. That's their ages, not their names. Master Sergeant Maynard, on behalf of our members, I'd like to present you with several things. Well, first is a Rotary Challenge coin. The second is a certificate showing that you are the Colonel Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week, and he's very familiar with Ralph, with our member. The third is a passport to the arts for you and your wife, if the 15-year-old can babysit, for 2 passes to the River Center, to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, to the National Infantry Museum paid exhibits, to the Columbus State University Theater Department, and to the Springer Opera House. So that's 10 outings, and we're going to tell her you got it, so you got to take it. And last but not least, we have a book you may be familiar with. It's by Colonel Puckett, Words for Warriors, and it is inscribed to you. It's presented to you on behalf of, by our table mate, Michael Silverstein, who is in memory of his father-in-law, Colonel Harold Rainbow. And in it is a card. You probably already know what Colonel Puckett did to get the Medal of Honor, but it's inscribed to you by him. And so please give Master Sergeant Maynard a round of applause. Thank you. You want to say something?
Just want to say thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Master Sergeant Maynard, just real quickly, on behalf of the 270 members of this club, we certainly appreciate you being with us today. We just asked you to take back your fellow soldiers on Fort Benning, how much we appreciate what you all do for us as a nation. Let's give him a hand again for being with us today. It's always great when we are able to introduce or present a new member to our club. And so at this point, we'd like to call on Phyllis Aaron, if you would come and introduce our newest member.
President Cedric and all of you fellow Rotarians, I am pleased today to introduce a new member, my good friend Debbie Yates. Debbie's a Columbus native. She graduated from Hardaway High School. Probably some grads in here from Hardaway High School. Debbie has a distinguished career in human services already, so she is a natural fit as a Rotarian, and she looks forward to serving as a Rotarian. Debbie's career started out in the neonatal intensive care unit at Columbus Regional. In the NICU, she was the very first nurse practitioner in Columbus. She helped launch the neonatal transport system with the air flights of the babies that needed to be cared for at Columbus Regional. Following all of that career in nursing, she went back to get another graduate degree in counseling. She worked at the Pastoral Institute. She went on to work as a nurse practitioner and counselor in a psychiatric practice. And then she went out in a solo career. So she has a long career of counseling behind her, as well as after retirement caring for family members who really were homebound. So we welcome Debbie to Rotary. Here is your pen. It will open doors for you around the world. I know personally that it does. And let's welcome Debbie to Rotary.
Thank you for this opportunity to join your lovely organization. I've met many of you already and hope to meet all of you soon. Thank you.
Ms. Deb, we just wanted to again welcome you to the club and look forward to getting to know you. And we enjoyed the time that we were able to share with you when we were up at the social.
I forgot to mention that she already has 3 makeups.
That's excellent. At this point, I'd like to call on past President Michael Silverstein, if you would come and present with us today a multiple Paul Harris Fellow.
It's always a great day for our club, and we can make presentations for multiple Paul Harris Fellows, and I'd like to call up Bill Feigner and Phyllis Aaron. And while they're coming up, just a few comments. Been very fortunate to know Phyllis and Bill for a number of years, and fellow Rotarians. And Bill has been a member of our club for over 42 years, and his father was also a longtime member of our club. And he is, of course, a Paul Harris Fellow, but he's also a Paul Harris Sustainer. And Phyllis, who's been a member of our club, is also a Paul Harris Fellow, in addition to being a Sustainer. And what I can tell you, too, is that both are very dedicated, not just to our club, but to the Rotary Foundation. And Phyllis was also one of the members of the original fact-finding mission to Vuelta Grande, and we're going to hear more about that. But the point is, by virtue of what they do through their contributions, they really help make the world a more just, peaceful, tolerant, and equal place through their acts of charity and kindness. And that's what we do as Rotarians. And by virtue of being either a Paul Harris Fellow, if you're not, I would encourage you to do so. And if that's not quite in the wheelhouse, at least become a Paul Harris Sustainer. It's $25 a quarter. And I can tell you that those contributions to the Rotary Foundation Annual Fund are truly an act of loving kindness, and they are reflected in what we are able to accomplish, not here in our own community, regionally, but around the world, such as in Vuelta Grande. If you'd please come forward so I can present you with your pins. Bill is now a Paul Harris +3, and Phyllis is now a Paul Harris +2. Please join me as we congratulate them.
Let's give them another hand. Just a few announcements. We'd like to welcome back from Guatemala, Alan G. If you all would stand, I really would like to, for us to see who you are and know who you are. If you'll stand, we're going to get the whole group to stand. Alan G. Eric Spears, of course, is up here. Louise Hurlis, and of course, Larry. Let's give them a hand and welcome them back from Guatemala. Our next Rotary Breakfast Mix will be on Friday the 20th, January 20th from 8 a.m. until 9. And of course, Eric Cross will be our presenter. At this point, so that we will have good time to hear from our guests and our speaker in our program today. At this point, I'd like to thank Ian for giving us the invitation and call on Eric Spears if you would come introduce today's program, if you would come.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce not only a colleague but a friend for the past 15 or 16 years or so, Uli Leibrecht, who is the founder and executive director for the SEPA study abroad program that CSU works with. SEPA, which I believe started out as customized European programs abroad, but I now call it educational programs abroad, is a national leading study abroad provider organization and is the only one, to my knowledge, that actually operates as a nonprofit foundation, as a 501c3 here in the United States. I've had the pleasure to work with Uli, in fact, at 3 different universities, including here at CSU. Uli is a native of Germany and has over 25 years of experience in leadership positions in international higher education. For many years, she studied and worked abroad in the USA, France, and the UK. In addition to German as her mother tongue, she speaks English and French fluently and has a reasonable command of Spanish, which was evidenced in Guatemala last week. She was there with us as well. She holds German, French, and British university degrees in international business administration, as well as an American MBA. Uli started her career at the German National Tourist Board, where she was responsible for bringing more international visitors to Germany. She continued her career as a marketing manager for a major German bank, followed by a position as director of marketing for an international university with campuses in the EU or Europe and the USA, where she developed a real passion for international education. She is the founder of SEPA Europe and CEO since 1997. Under her leadership and guidance, and in collaboration with an excellent close-knit team, SEPA has developed to be one of the largest European-based study abroad organizations that offer unique study abroad opportunities for well over 2,000 students annually. In 2013, Uli initiated the creation of SEPA Foundation, the 501c3 public charity based here in the United States, and she serves on its board of directors. Intercultural awareness, civic engagement, and social responsibility within our own organization, but also towards people with less privileged backgrounds, are values that are close to Uli's heart. She's also an active member of Rotary in Strasbourg, France. In this context, she also actively oversees charitable projects for disadvantaged families and children in the Mayan village of Vuelta Grande, Guatemala, which is where the Rotary and the CSU connection come together. In addition to her roles at SEPA, she's also the president of a French travel organization, as well as the Hotel and Study Center of the Chateau des Portales in Strasbourg, France. Just recently, through Georgia College, our partner school down the road, Uli was recently inducted into the Omicron Delta Kappa National Leadership Honorary Society, which recognizes and encourages superior leadership and exemplary character. So with all of that, I am very pleased to introduce Uli to come and give us a presentation. Uli.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. Dear President Cedric, dear fellow Rotary friends, first of all, it's not too late, I think, to say a Happy New Year to all of you. May it be peaceful, may it be prosperous and joyful for all of us. I'd like to convey the greetings from my club in Strasbourg and also from my husband's club in Bietigheim, Germany. Some of you may remember that we've been standing up here before. I think it's been the first time 6-7 years ago, but then we came back a second time as well to introduce actually our aid project in Vuelta Grande, Guatemala, and the global grant that was launched by my club in Strasbourg to help support the local community with the development of a learning center in Vuelta Grande, Guatemala. Since then, a lot has happened. We had achieved that global grant over an amount of actually $74,000 at the time. That was in 2020. And since then, we're able to run a very comprehensive elementary school program and various adult education courses in Vuelta Grande. And the students that are here in the room that just experienced that, really on a very first-hand basis. We already had 3 delegations of the Rotary Club in Columbus visiting Antigua, and what makes us especially happy is that your club now has adopted the project and is presently working on a global grant as well under the leadership, I think, of Ellen, to further help support the local community, especially in providing basic but efficient sanitary facilities. So I guess I can say I'm very happy that we have such a close relationship, and I'm very proud and happy to be invited back to speak about the work of SIPA and SIPA Foundation, and why we feel global engagement and international education is more important than ever for this young generation. In putting these lines together, that was really a good occasion for me to look back onto my own life and to understand what has inspired me to start an international study abroad organization. And a nonprofit foundation that aims to build bridges of understanding between cultures through international education, leadership, and global engagement, as stated in the mission of our foundation. The aim of SIPA Foundation is to offer high-quality study abroad opportunities for students and future leaders that positively impact their personal, their academic, and their career goals, and to develop them into global citizens. SIPA and SIPA Foundation touches the minds and souls of over 2,500 students every year by organizing short-term, summer, and semester study abroad programs. My amazing team and I see every day through our work how those experiences have a most positive impact on those young adults, many of whom come from backgrounds where the families haven't been able to travel much within or without, or even outside the United States before. Or as a student from Hattiesburg, Mississippi once said to me, I'm the first student in my family, or the first person in my family who travels outside the country except to go for war. We see at our study center in Strasbourg how traveling changes the students' mindsets, their ability to think outside the box, their willingness to become more tolerant towards other cultures, to become more compassionate, and to be curious about learning and understanding other languages. The Czech proverb, learn a new language and you get a new soul, expresses that very beautifully. I grew up in Germany, and traveling to other countries within Europe where people spoke foreign languages seemed completely natural and normal to me and my family. As soon as I graduated from high school, I was off on my own, getting on an airplane to the US for the first time in my life and working my way through culture shock when I arrived at the JFK airport with 2 big suitcases, not knowing where to go and what would come next. I survived, and that was long before cell phones, internet, or Google Maps, so it's quite an achievement. And I met the most wonderful and helpful people. I was adopted by my American, or better, Texan family that I'm still in touch with after over 40 years. It was during those 12 months that I developed my undivided love for the American people. I was fascinated by their tolerance, by their willingness to help and to support others, the can-do attitude, the openness to walk just up to about anybody, start a conversation, and find things in common and become friends next. You know, that's very unusual for a German, as you can imagine. My first experience abroad has shaped my personality and has really made me to become the person I am now. And once I really got curious, I obviously wanted to see and to learn more. I studied abroad during my undergraduate and graduate studies in France and in the UK, and I traveled the world ever since. Having said all that, it's almost natural that I had a strong desire to help young adults to open their eyes, their hearts, and their spirits to the world that is out there and beyond our comfort zone, beyond the convenient environment of friends and families that we know and that we can trust. I founded SIPA and SIPA Foundation together with my husband over 25 years ago, and it seems to provide the perfect soft experience for students to travel and study abroad in a very safe and protected way, surrounded by their peers, chaperoned by their professors and coordinators. My main idea behind these, what we call in our world, short-term faculty-led programs, was to provide a first glimpse of the world out there and to create the desire to come back for more and hopefully get adventurous enough to travel and study eventually on your own. Nothing has proved more evidently than the COVID crisis, or since last March, also the unexpected Ukraine war, how the interconnectedness of the world impacts all of our daily lives, and how important it is for us to look at issues together. For many, especially young people, these times seem incredibly uncertain and destabilizing, and nobody knows what this year will bring. We're hosting, for example, a young couple from the Ukraine at our home in Strasbourg, and if I only try to imagine what this unfortunate war in the Ukraine means to them, how it has shattered their futures, their career plans, and their personal lives, and yet they remain positive and full of hope that the world supports their cause and that they will be able to go back to their country and help build it up again. At the same time, this past year living at a French castle, and I guess life can be worse than living in a French castle, learning a different language and trying to understand how we Germans and French tick will also be an invaluable experience for this young couple, and they will benefit from it all their lives. I also strongly believe that global social responsibility is a generator of knowledge, of research, and of democracy, especially in times of turmoil and uncertainty. Students that develop a sense of global engagement and knowledge sharing will be the thriving force for future progress and will help to improve conditions of our society. I'm very happy to see that Columbus State, under the leadership of Eric, is also emphasizing the critical importance of service, tolerance, and social justice. I'm also happy to see that increasingly universities are embracing the UN Sustainable Development Goals as an agenda that reflects the commitment to address the complex problems of our times. It's important for young people to learn how to share and how to develop a sense of compassion, respect, and understanding for other cultures. Acting locally, thinking globally, whether young people get active in their own community and help with some grassroots actions, engage in some local voluntary community work, or whether they participate in a service learning activity, such as our students right now that came back from the Guatemala programs under the guidance of Ellen and Eric. All those initiatives of social engagement help to form a sense of compassion and a strong feeling for social justice. These volunteers will, in their future role as leaders, certainly have a strong impact on our future global challenges. As Eric mentioned, we just returned back from Guatemala, where my husband, my friend Carmen, who's here in the room as well, and I started this aid project for the Maya communities in the mountains between Antigua and Guatemala over 10 years ago, while the community of Vuelta Grande has a multitude of basic needs, and the families of 10 and more live in small sheds and are often struggling for survival. We decided that besides helping by providing better housing, nutrition, sanitary facilities, and some basic medical help, education is the only way to improve the quality of their lives on a long-term basis. In the meantime, we have, and our students have actively helped here, we have, with the help of many friends and various Rotary clubs, been able to build 4 classrooms. We employ 4 teachers. We offer some preschool and elementary school education and introduce the Maya children to the concept of learning. We offer many learning opportunities for those children and young adults that haven't been able to learn how to read and write. Through dancing and singing lessons, they develop a sense of self-confidence, and they're starting to become more curious about the world outside of their little village. We also try to engage the women in adult education courses, create a sense of pride for their unique Mayan culture and traditions, and reteach them to learn their beautiful and colorful Mayan handicrafts, or we educate them on nutritious cooking recipes to provide more healthy meals for their families. For the men, we offer basic electricity and plumbing courses. We teach them how to make better use of their little piece of land to plant different fruits and vegetables so that they can sell them at the local markets. As you can tell by my enthusiasm, this project has been incredibly rewarding for us in so many ways. It made us very, very happy to see how the 300+ families of Vuelta Grande have opened up to the opportunities we provided for them, and how it has changed their lives in so many ways. The quality of their life is certainly by far not where it should be, but the change and improvement from what we have found over 10 years ago is amazing to see and makes us very happy, proud, but yet very humble. Once more, the saying that when you give, you get so much more back in many different ways proves to be very true. The service learning group from Columbus State University that has just returned back last Sunday has been helping to set up those smoke-reduced stoves for the families and has helped with the education of the children at our school. I've been very impressed to see them engaging in the local community, and I believe this experience has been a life changer for them, right? However, the truth is that these students, while they were only there for a short one-week trip, will learn so much more from the families and children in Guatemala than they were able to teach those kids. They realize how fortunate their lives and families back home are, but at the same time, they also realize that in our globalized world, it's impossible to simply ignore all this poverty and social injustice in the world. They understand now that if their generation is not willing to be compassionate, to share a part of their wealth, and to help provide equal and fair opportunities and acceptable work and living conditions to those people, more social unrest, wars, and migration will arise. It's crucial for this young generation to open their eyes to global challenges and to help build a global, interconnected society that is grounded on justice and inclusion. We're thrilled that those 15 students that have participated in the program have taken a first step towards this important goal. We see in many European countries, but also in the US and other parts of the world, very disturbing nationalist and xenophobic ideologies and movements. I feel it's our responsibility, meaning universities such as CSU and study abroad organizations like SIPA foundations, as leaders in international education, to combat those views, whether they come from governments or from other actors, and to help build a new generation of future leaders that is globally engaged and is able to overcome this fear of the other and the different. I'm 100% convinced that international education helps to form global citizens that develop a broader knowledge, understanding, and compassion alongside the traditional purely technical skills. And that those young people are also better equipped to critically recognize and counter misinformation and polarized rhetoric that we see here in the US, but also in our part of the world. Our goal is to equip our future generation with the right leadership skills, with a broad worldview, and an understanding how to critically listen, engage, and act in this global society. We need to educate young leaders to develop a sense of entrepreneurship, global collaboration, tolerance, and creativity to be able to weather the challenges that lie ahead of us. In that sense, I would like to thank you all again for listening. I would like to thank you all for the support you gave to our project in Guatemala. I would like to encourage you to come and visit yourself and to see. And I would also like to encourage you to send your children and your grandchildren abroad to engage internationally and to study abroad as part of their education. Thank you very much for listening. And again, Happy New Year to you all.
We have a set of photographs that we're going to rotate around through this remote device to give you a sense of the things that we did. So there's no particular order in them at all, but it'll give you context, I think, to the physical environment, the socioeconomic environment, and the degree to which all 13 of our students plus one alumna stepped out of their comfort zones to work on this project here. Right there is an example with Larry. Is that Larry there? I can't see from the angle. With the actual stove itself that we put together. It's a bit like a Lego project in a way with heavy concrete blocks, right? This is a Rotaract hand washing station at the school at the NGO Funkoli. There's a completed stove. Right here is an example of typical architecture and building material, yeah. And inside of it. Most homes have dirt floors. And the stoves replace generally an open pit where there's a wood fire and they put pans over 2 iron rods and smoke inhalation occurs within the home. This is the children at the school. the primary school kids with with some of us from CSU and with SEPA Foundation and the Funcoli NGO, which is an acronym for Free Hearts Association. Foundation, thank you. Schoolroom that they help fund. Activities. I think that might be the last one. Yep, okay. All right. So we can answer any questions if there's...
Please, if there are questions, we have a couple of minutes or so for questions.
Yeah, so they're used in different parts of the world, and this is actually produced by a local Guatemalan company or an engineer that does this also for charity. A lot of people will call them rocket stoves, which I don't know why they're called rocket stoves, but basically think of cinder blocks that kind of interlock in a fashion that gives it stability. And then there is the basin that you put on one end, you'll put the firewood into. And then there's some sand in there as well to kind of help use as a thermal material, but also to prevent fire from spreading out. And then there is an iron platform put on top with circles that can be taken out for putting pots on top of to boil water and such, or they could be you put them back on tortillas. And then there is a metal pipe chimney that goes up through the corrugated roof that they cut a hole through, and it sends this, and then we put it up there. Smoke then goes out. They're about $350 US each to buy and get delivered, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but Alan and I were calculating the average family income, and an average family income is about US dollars, about $10 per day, but then you divide that out between 5 to 8 people in a single household. So it's a substantial amount of money for them. So this kind of gets them on a steady platform towards better health, but also it mediates another problem, which is climate change. Because when they're not using energy efficient cooking stoves, they're just cutting trees down randomly, which is contributing to the drought problem in the central highlands of Guatemala, which is part of the climate issue that's already happening there naturally. But then in addition to that, it actually undermines the stability of the land, which means there are increased mudslides when they do get the heavy rains. So it hits several different things within the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, but most importantly, it reduces asthma, COPD, skin disease from smoke, and early cataract disease that most women get when they're over this fire most of the day. Yeah.
Other questions?
For me or for
Well, for either of you, probably for you, Uli, but how did you choose Vuelta Grande initially? I mean, obviously you've been doing work there for a number of years, but how did you land in that particular community?
Well, I mean, the desire was there to help, and yeah, we initially thought, living in Germany, maybe looking at somewhere Africa, but then we had a personal relationship, and that's actually through my friend Carmen that's here as well, personal relationship with a local lady, Ingrid Juarez, who then started that foundation, who has been helping already the community there with some medical aid in the years before. So we knew that we had somebody that we can trust, because we're sending quite a lot of money every year also through our foundation, to support the school and the teachers. So we really needed to have a solid structure, a foundation that we can trust. And we had that in Guatemala. And Guatemala is a country I want all of you. You go there once and you will always go back. It's to me the most wonderful country in the world. It's very special. The people, the Maya community, is very, very special and unique. So we just went there to take a look at it, and the next thing we knew is that we made a promise, and then we couldn't get out of it anymore. And ever since we're helping. Yeah.
Full of questions today. I'd really love to know from the students your perspective on what you learned and what you gained from the trip.
Hello.
At CSU, I actually work in the TESOL specification of the education department, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. So for me, it was an opportunity to go abroad and experience the education system in a country that is less fortunate than America. Last summer, I spent some time in South Korea teaching, a much longer trip, around a month, and seeing the two different, sides of the coin, so to say. It was very eye-opening. Just getting more worldly experience will benefit me as an educator.
I think I speak for a lot of us that went on the trip that it at first was quite overwhelming because like you see on the TV and commercials, you see how bad people are living, but until you're there and you're seeing it, you're smelling it, and you're like integrated into it, you can never really understand. But I say that, and these kids obviously don't really know what they're missing out on or anything like that, but they are the happiest kids you've ever seen. They've got hardly anything, but like the days that we would play with them, the laughter, the smiles. Like one day we gave them like milk and biscuits, and one of the boys came up to me. As soon as he got his biscuits, he came and offered it to me straight away and didn't even want it for himself. And that's just the kind of kids that they are, which is just, it's beautiful to see every day.
Of course, while we're in this posture, we always want to hear from Larry. That's right.
That was a really bittersweet week for me, because to see all of the poverty, but as Emma said, they were so happy with nothing. And I just wish that we would have done more, and I really want to go back and, yeah.
Let's give her a hand.
Phyllis had a question.
Okay. I think Ms. Phyllis had a question. Did you? Okay.
So it was a great trip when we went, were able to go on the trip. I encourage anyone in the room who is slightly interested to know that you will be interested once you get there. So please do it if you are slightly interested. When we were there before, we had interaction with the Rotary Club of Antigua. Were you able to see any of those members again, and were they involved in the project?
Absolutely, yeah. We had 2 meetings with the Rotary Club of Antigua. We have a project, a scholarship program, where we support local students, I mean older, not like the children in our village, but a little older, to pursue an education or an apprenticeship. So we had a meeting about that with those students and the Rotary members. And then we also attended a Rotary meeting in the evening, very different from the meetings that you're used here, right? It was almost 3 hours, and it was in Spanish, and we lost it after a while. But no, it was, but it was very. It's a very good relationship, and as you know, we're working on that global grant with the Rotary Club in Antigua together. They're incredibly active. They're only, I think, 28 or something members, so a very small group. But it's incredible what they get off the ground and how they help the local communities there. They run several global grants together with other clubs like ours here and other partners around the world. So we're working with them. We're in close touch with them, and without them, we wouldn't be able to proceed with the global grant. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Let's give all of them a hand for the great work that they did over the past week.
And Julie, by the way, since it was a 3-hour meeting, I think that counts as 3 makeups. Just saying. All right. I need them. I would be remiss before we close out today's meeting without again thanking the students who really stepped beyond their cultural and comfort zones, and they really jumped into the project. The chemistry was fantastic. There was not one complaint, and they worked from 8 o'clock in the morning until after 8 p.m., and we really appreciate everything that they've done. And also, every single student was supported either through Alan's class, through the Donald Jordan Endowment Fund, or through my class through the Mildred Miller Fort Foundation. So I would be remiss for not mentioning those two organizations or endowments that really supported these students to go out there and make the world, as I told them, a little bit of a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for the fellow Rotarians, basically from this club that, you know, took it upon themselves to be a part of this, and certainly thank you for the students. So Uli, on behalf of this club, we want to put a children's book in the local library, Chattanooga Library, with your name engrafted on it. And we just thank you so much for being a part of us today and sharing with us today. Let's give her a hand again for being with us today. We'd just like to re-welcome Master Sergeant Maynard. Again, we thank you for your presence, you being with us today, and take back to your fellow soldiers how much we appreciate what all you guys do. And also, just as a reminder, today's program will be on both our Facebook page and YouTube. Next week's meeting will be our Start Student program. At this point, because we're close to our very time, we'd like to call on Ian to come back up and give us our ultimate four-way test.
Please stand. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you so much, Ian. With no further business, we stand adjourned.